I woke up one morning to the sound of my front door unlocking, not opening, unlocking from the outside. You ever have one of those moments where your brain can't decide if you're dreaming or about to meet your maker? That was me, frozen in the hallway, clutching my phone in one hand and my coffee in the other, listening to metal clack against metal and some chipper off-key humming drifting under the door. I swear I could smell cucumber melon lotion before I even saw the culprit. So I swing open the door, and there she is, a woman dragging a rolling suitcase big enough to bury a horse, toting a glittery bag that literally says board business, like it's her personal mission statement. And right behind her, because of course there's backup stands, a guy in a neon safety vest holding a doormat that screams, "This house obeys," in font you could read from Mars. My coffee just about turned to ice in my hand. I mean, do you call the police or an exorcist for this? Let me back up a sec. My name's Connor Vale, and I live in what I thought was a pretty quiet neighborhood in Sycamore Glen. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, more succulents than scents on the windowsills, and a mortgage that acts up if I so much as think about buying a new grill. I'm that guy who alphabetizes the spice rack waves at neighbors but doesn't know any of their dogs' names. Waters the plants on Thursdays, mows the grass in neat little stripes, never played music louder than a soft jazz station. My version of wild is switching out the porch bulb for a warm white instead of soft white. You know what I mean. Enter Bonnie Harker, HOA president, hobby tyrant, and a woman who treats neighborhood bylaws like they were carved into stone tablets straight from the mountain. The first time Bonnie and I really tangled, she cited me for get this aggressive basil. My little herb plant had spilled out of its pot by, I kid you not, 1 inch. She stood out there measuring it with a ruler, glancing up at my window like she was waiting for me to confess. That's when the fines started. Popped up like dandelions after the rain. Non-compliant wind chimes, which I didn't even own. Curtain color violation because my beige was apparently too close to taupe. Mailbox font infraction. Apparently Helvetica is an affront to all that is decent, and Arial is the law. I paid the fines, protested through the official channels, sat through a 20-minute lecture at the next board meeting about community cohesion, then went back to pretending I lived somewhere normal. Even swapped the mailbox font. But between you and me, Helvetica's just better. And then Bonnie's personal life detonated. Her husband left, took the dog, and hauled off the patio set. Suddenly, board members started resigning like there was a gas leak, each one citing personal reasons, which was really just code for Bonnie's lost it. And with nobody left to say no, Bonnie became the human version of glitter and disappointment stuck everywhere, impossible to remove. The moving in stunt didn't happen out of nowhere. For months, she'd been escalating nightly wellness checks where she'd shine a flashlight in my living room, verifying occupant vitality, as she put it. First time I called 911, the dispatcher sighed and said, "That's just your HOA president, Hahn." Like I should know this was a thing. She stapled hot pink urgent occupancy. Corrections to my door accusing me of living alone without a board-approved cohabitation plan, a rule that did not exist. She measured my curtains with a tape measure while I stood there brushing my teeth. When I told her to leave my property, she reminded me that my lawn abuts common space, which apparently grants her the divine right of trespass. She warned me that resistance would be noted in your permanent file. I had no idea I had a permanent file. Then she started spreading rumors that I was secretly running some sort of tech nomad hostel. She even posted on Nextdoor calling my place a hotbed of transients and sourdough starters because my parents parked their SUV in my driveway over Thanksgiving. The cherry on top, I get a certified letter covered in glitter ink hearts, dotting the I's saying due to security insufficiency in Unit 12C, Bonnie herself would be moving in effective in 72 hours to ensure proper household management. Indefinitely. I said, hell no. Shot off a formal email to the board, CC'd a real estate attorney I found online who agreed to look at the case after she finished laughing. She assured me that's not legal and told me to document everything. Bonnie lost it. Within the hour, 2 patrol cars roll up for a domestic disturbance that existed only in Bonnie's deranged voicemail to the cops. She told them I'd threatened her life. I invited the officers in, showed off my empty guest room, handed them a folder of HOA fines and emails thick enough to use as a doorstop. The officer with the kind eyes asked if the board had filed any kind of legal writ for the placement. Before I could answer, Bonnie barges up, tries to jam her suitcase through my front door, and announces loud enough for the neighbors to hear that my living situation poses an imminent peril to the community's quality of life. She handed the cop a provisional occupancy warrant printed on lavender paper, complete with cartoon house giving a thumbs up. The officer stared at it like it was a magic eye puzzle, then quietly asked Bonnie to step outside. She argued of course she did, but finally shuffled out when he made it clear she was not welcome in my house. Next morning, I get visits from the city code inspector, a county mediator for homeowner disputes, and Gerald, the HOA's insurance rep, who looked like he's seen it all and is surprised by nothing. But when he heard Bonnie's plan, his eyebrows actually left orbit. We all sat around my kitchen table with a neat stack of bylaws, board minutes, and Bonnie's home-brewed warrants. The inspector calmly said, "None of this authorizes forced residency." The mediator, peering over her glasses, asked Bonnie which law allowed her to move in with homeowners without consent. Bonnie, dead serious, says the statute of common sense. The officer just wrote no such statute exists. That's when Gerald, the insurance guy, coughed and asked why the HOA account had invoices for emergency occupancy kits, including air mattresses and something called residency candles. He looked at Bonnie. She said it was emergency use only. Gerald pulls out another sheet. Emergency doesn't include bedding from Pottery Barn labeled presidential quarters. The silence was so thick you could butter toast with it. A special HOA meeting got called 3 days later at the rec center. You know, that room that always smells faintly of heated carrots and broken dreams. I brought popcorn. Gerald brought spreadsheets and a projector. Up on the screen went line after line of suspicious expenses. Board lodging, strategic couch recurring locksmith charges, master keys ordered for multiple units. Bonnie had been coaching the treasurer to frame it as an anti-squatting initiative. It was like watching a true crime doc, but narrated by a scented candle. That's when the board started muttering, and then the questions came, how many other homes had Bonnie tried to place herself in? Turns out 3 other single guys had gotten the same treatment, but thought it was some weird prank. The same officer from before stands up with a clipboard and reads out a laundry list: criminal trespass, credit card abuse, false police reports, harassment. Right then and there, the board voted to suspend Bonnie unanimous. The officer escorted her out her suitcase, thumping behind her, yelling about how everyone would be sorry when the curtains didn't match and property values plummeted. 2 weeks later, county prosecutor pressed formal charges: criminal trespass, attempted unlawful entry, misuse of HOA funds over $8,000, 3 false police reports, and harassment. In court, Bonnie tried to represent herself, saying she was just upholding community standards. The judge just stared over his glasses and asked, "Do you understand? Homeowners have rights?" Bonnie nods, but insists those rights come after aesthetics. The judge handed down 12 months probation, 200 hours community service cleaning, courthouse records, full restitution, $15,000 with legal fees, and banned her from any HOA board in the county for 5 years. He even ordered anger management focused on compulsive governance tendencies. Oh, and a permanent restraining order: she's not allowed within 100 feet of my house. The look on Bonnie's face when he read the sentence like a goldfish gasping for air. "But Your Honor, who will enforce the mailbox font regulations?" The judge deadpan says, "Miss Harker, that is no longer your concern, nor was it ever your authority to enter someone's home." She was escorted out, still clinging to a binder labeled emergency bylaws, muttering about unappreciative neighbors and falling property values. So here's my question. When does community standards cross the line into flat-out tyranny? Where's the line between keeping order and losing your mind? Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever had a run-in with a neighborhood busybody or a rule gone too far? I want to hear your story, and don't forget, hit subscribe. If you want more real stories about justice, right, wrong, and what happens when the HOA messes with the wrong homeowner,